back to my channel. Today I'm here with my mum.
Hi, I'm Carolyn.
This is her first YouTube video that she's ever been in, so you're a wee bit feared, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's probably why I'm laughing so much, because I'm probably a bit feared, so I'm just hiding it by the
Nerves laugh.
But yeah, anyway, today we're here to, well, this is to tell you the story about the first sort of stage of my congenital heart disease journey, sort of the bit that kick-started it all, which basically finding out I was diagnosed on my first operation, which is 18 years today, which is the 31st of October 2020. It was 31st of October 2002 I had my first operation. So it's a very easy date to remember, because I don't remember my second or third ones. You can.
Yeah.
But because it's the 31st, it's Halloween, it's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna talk you through from being born and what happened for 6 weeks prior, and then going into hospital, etc. Okay, I don't really know how to start this bit. Basically, I was born.
You made a very speedy arrival.
I was nearly a motorway baby.
Yeah, just about made it to the hospital. Half an hour to spare.
Literally. Oh, I didn't realise there was that much.
From car park to birth.
Oh, jeepers. Well, that would have been a story then. It's what was the M1 or something? Just driving M2, right? Just making my appearance early. But yeah, so what was I like in the hospital, after being born and stuff
Well, you didn't really sleep very well, but it was a very noisy ward, and like I said, because you came in the middle of the night, we'd be all topsy-turvy for a day or two. So we were glad to get home to get a bit of routine and normality. But when we got you home, you still didn't sleep very well. And you constantly fed.
But when I was in the hospital, they thought I looked fine to them.
Yeah, you had all the normal
the checks and stuff.
Checks before you came home, and listened to you, looked at you, checked you out, sent you home.
Deemed fine.
Perfectly healthy baby.
Oh well, no, that wasn't the case. I went out through the photo book now and find. So I can show you what I actually looked like when I was home.
Tiny.
Look how toady I was. See, why do my eyes look bruised? No, is that just me? Just check. Right, that's literally how toady I was. What was it? Premature?
Slightly premature. No.
I don't think 2 weeks is premature.
Pre-baby. Premature clothes, but they still were too big.
See, sure, why was that not concerning?
Because
the fact that I was only
tiny babies. And I was only small.
Were you? Oh. Yeah, that shows how small I am. Because you can even see the socks are flipping rolled up around me. Your socks are meant to be tight no matter what size they are. Oh, that reflection of that light is doing my head in. But yeah, so basically what happened in those 6 weeks when I was at home.
So in those 6 weeks, Zoe slept very little during the night. She constantly fed through the night. And the only time she would have got any sleep would have been sleeping on top of her daddy's chest. She would sleep fine during the day if she was in her buggy in a slightly upright position. But every time you lay her down in bed at night, eyes straight open.
But do you think that was something to do with my breathing, that I could only sleep sitting up?
Yeah, it obviously had something to do with pressure on your heart and oxygen in your blood, and it woke you up, which was probably a good thing that it woke you up, because it means that you're still here today. But because you fed so often, you put weight on, and that was one of the telltale triggers for heart babies, was that they didn't put weight on. Because that we did, they obviously ticked that box off as was fine.
I've always liked my food.
So we took her to get weighed every 6 weeks, and they constantly said she was still thriving, she was still putting weight on, and there's nothing to worry about, even though we were at doctor's appointments virtually weekly through the 6 weeks, because I was convinced there was something.
Were they not convinced that you had was it
they just thought I was a bit anxious and first time mum and worrying about things, and
then they got that bit. Well, if you were anxious, you still are
tired because I wasn't getting enough sleep and just overthinking everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were thought right.
Yeah.
Could have been a very different story.
You should always follow your gut feeling.
Well, yeah, that's what they say.
Continually getting checks and checks and checks, and I'm glad I did that last day, because
Yeah.
If I hadn't taken you to the baby clinic to get weighed, and you turned quite blue because it was quite a cold morning, that midwife might not have said, we need to get you checked by a doctor today. And you might not be here to lift the tale.
To tell the tale.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, talking more on like the actual date, like the 31st of October.
Well, the 31st of October is the day you had your operation, but it all kind of started on the 30th of October.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. So yeah, just run through like from the start of the 30th and.
I'm nearly sure it was a Wednesday. And we'd been to the baby clinic, got weighed. They asked you to see a doctor, but the doctor's appointment wasn't until 6 o'clock that night, so I never thought anything.
I didn't even think it was
too serious. Because they made us wait the whole day to see a doctor. But as soon as we walked into that doctor's surgery and he looked at you and listened to you, he told us to take you straight to A&E. Which was a bit worrying because you thought, well, what is wrong? Why are we going straight to the hospital?
He can't even tell you. And it was the Royal we went to, Belfast.
We went straight to the children's at the Royal, yes. With a letter. So you know when you go with a letter that you bunk the queue, you go straight in as quickly as you can. Just details from the doctor to pass on to the next doctor.
I didn't know sort of thing that you could get.
Suspecting that there was possibly something wrong with your lungs. So we went straight through, and a team of doctors and nurses basically took you off us. Took you into a room and asked us to go to another room, which you only ever see on TV and you think there really is something badly wrong here.
Is that when you met Dr. Craig then?
No, this is before Dr. Craig, this is before Clark Clinic. So we waited in another room while they did various checks and tests and chatted about you. And they came in and decided that they thought there was something wrong with your heart. So we were then taken to a ward called Clark Clinic in the hospital.
Which is like the heart ward.
Which is the heart ward. It's for all cardiac children.
Yeah.
So we arrived there just a few minutes before staff changeover time. So it was a bit crazy. There was lots of people about and we were kind of taking over the ward.
Transferred to somebody else.
Because again, when we went there was lots of doctors and nurses and people that came with us. But the ward were fantastic because the staff that were actually supposed to go home stayed with us right through until we were settled and sorted and knew what was happening. Showed us the parent accommodation, let us talk to the doctors. We actually got you christened that night in the hospital because things weren't looking really very good.
They did, yeah. That didn't really think I was going to make it to even the 31st or the 1st of November.
They knew you had a very, very big day ahead of you the next day.
Mum wants me to cover her out in these, but...
So the hospital took...
So they took these photos.
Pictures of us at the hospital.
That's me, my dad and my mum.
In case that was possibly the last picture we got.
Yeah, these potentially could have been the last ever photos of me. But thankfully they weren't.
No. So that was the night that we got to meet Dr. Craig and all the team.
So Dr. Craig, he was my cardiologist, pediatric cardiologist, up until 2-3 years ago. I was like, in between 15 and 16, and then obviously he's retired now, and then I've moved on to the adult bit, but he had been my cardiologist from day one until going into the adult ward, so, which was good, he was lovely. So like, did he just bring you into side you and be like, they got some news, guys?
Done various scans on you on the ward to try and work out, you know, what the problem was. They then decided that they knew what it was and talked us through your condition and what the next stage was, what they would have to do the following day. But at that stage your oxygen saturations were very, very low. I think if I remember rightly they were in the 20%.
That's mad because mine are like in the 90s. They're really, really good.
Yeah. So they decided that the safest place for you to be that night was in intensive care. So you went to the paediatric intensive care unit, and they looked after you that night while they decided what the procedures were going to be the next day. So the next day you had to go for, I can't remember what that scan's called.
MRI?
No.
Cath thing?
You had to go for a cath.
That's the wee tube like in here or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to go to cath lab to see, that's probably to get a better picture of your heart, to see what they were going to do.
That's like exploratory type stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we signed consent forms for that, and also consent forms for the next stage of surgery if they were able to proceed with it, just in case time was of the essence, so they could go straight from one procedure to the next with Mr. Gladstone. So we met him briefly that afternoon just before he went to surgery.
And he's done all 3 of my surgeries as well,
Yeah,
hasn't he?
yeah. We're very, very lucky to get the same person to do all 3
And he's
in
retired now
Belfast.
Yeah.
He was due to retire actually pretty soon after your first operation, but he was still there right through to the 3rd, which was great. So basically the next day was a whirlwind, and that was the 31st of October, so you went straight from intensive care to the cath, and straight from that to surgery, and again to cardiac intensive care unit.
Okay, so when I was in the hospital for my first operation, didn't they give me these, they gave me socks?
Yes.
Why did they give me socks up?
They gave you socks to keep your wee feet warm.
Like
The red socks. So whenever we first went back
small.
to see you, all we can remember was seeing little tiny feet with red socks.
There's a photo in here of me, isn't there? With my red socks on.
There should be.
Okay.
Well, it's probably not in this one, it's maybe in the...
No, it is.
Oh, it's not.
See, I always say I look chubby in this, but you say I'm borderline not like... This is after op, so it's like...
It's post-op, so you've got fluids and stuff pumped into you.
So yeah, that was me in one of those wee like incubator type things.
It's just like a little oxygen box you've got over you to keep you...
Is that like the ECG sticker things? That's what it looks like to me.
It's just lots of things to trace your heart and check.
Yeah.
So your first operation was we went in through the side of your neck.
Yeah, so that's this side. This side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like round down here and stuff. I have the scar, but you can barely see it.
And it was very successful, thankfully.
So how long was I in like operation for? Was I not in there for ages?
No, the operation. No, the operation was ages. It was hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
You were away from quite early in the
Like,
morning
what did
to
your dad do then? Like, you just sit in your parents' office?
8, 9 o'clock at night. No, we were lucky enough to have a room up in the accommodation in Clark Clinic for parents.
But you just like sit and wait then for like 8 hours?
So you go for long walks and you go and try and have some rest. Yeah, it's a long old day of waiting for a phone call.
And not knowing what the phone call is going to be, whether it's going to be it was successful or you just need to come down here.
Yeah. So you stayed in intensive care for a couple of days and they looked after you and got you so settled and stabilised, and then you moved back to Clark Clinic.
But did you see me when I was in intensive care, or like did they not?
Oh yes, we were allowed to see you as soon as you came out of theatre.
You obviously just can't.
But we can't
touch you, like lift you.
Oh,
and
you
stuff.
can. We were able to.
Oh, okay.
We do have pictures somewhere where we were able to feed you and lift you out, but you're still attached to lots and lots of wires.
Oh, yeah.
And tubes.
Lots of tubes. So was anybody else like lying around and stuff up then, or was
people were allowed to come up to the hospital, but we were the only 2 that were allowed in to see you.
Oh, okay.
I think possibly people were able to see you from a distance, and because it hadn't been such a traumatic experience and taken everybody by surprise, because as far as we were concerned,
I was perfectly
you were a perfectly healthy baby.
Well, I mean, it's like,
and one day just changed everything.
What's that thing now? Is it like the prenatal scan things?
They do a scan now at 20 weeks where they check the chambers of your heart and check that everything's there.
But whereas that wasn't really as common.
Or unless it was picked up antenatally, and then you were transferred into
unless they saw them and then furthered it if they didn't see you.
Nothing of ours was picked up.
Yes, there was like
beforehand.
There's literally no clue. It's just like surprise.
But now when you look back now and you look at pictures of you in the first 6 weeks, you didn't look the healthiest.
Yeah, I don't look right.
You looked very
discoloured, nearly like
lethargic, and yes, you did look a bit blue in a lot of pictures. But first time parents, we didn't know that was any different.
Well, yeah.
You've seen doctors every week of your life. Health visitors and everything were visiting you, and none of them picked it up, so
that's mad, like
it just got completely slipped through the loop.
Yeah.
I think you were in Clark Clinic then for 5 to 7 days.
What am I doing in that?
That's probably just after you've had a feed.
Is this me like mid-cough?
Having a wee dream about your dinner.
Why am I like... Oh dear.
So we got you home and you slept a bit better. Not a great deal better, but you slept a bit better, fed a bit better, and continued to put the weight on, and we did everything we were told.
Okay, so what, you said there was like fireworks?
Yeah, the night that you had your operation was
Also
about
it's
8:30, 9 o'clock on the 31st of October, so the whole of Belfast was having fireworks displays and partying. And we could hear that as we were walking from the children's over to the main hospital where you had your operation.
Oh, so I had my main operation?
Yeah, all the cardiac operations at that time happened over in the main hospital, so it was adults and children together.
Like, I knew my third one was in there because obviously I remember that. I don't remember ending with my first operation, given that I was 6 weeks old. But do you don't think that's like sort of a good thing on your behalf? I don't remember, because obviously, like, what else we can tell from the photos, I wasn't exactly comfortable, like I was in pain and stuff, I could barely breathe. But I don't think that's good that I don't really remember that.
Yeah. You
Because
obviously have a good experience at the hospital. You're not never been frightened or scared to go in.
No,
You always quite enjoyed it.
I love it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But like, to me it's always like, okay, you go in for a weekend and then you sit and play games for the next 2 weeks
get
while
lots
you go.
of attention from Gillian and get lots of arts and crafts things just brought to you.
And you get visitors, people coming to see you and giving you sweets and stuff. What's not to like? What's not to like? Can I ask about how you told like the rest of the family and stuff? Like, did you just phone them that night?
Well, that
Or did
night
they come up?
I didn't phone them.
You were too
That night, your dad had to make the dreaded phone calls to all our family to let them know where we were and if they wanted to come and see you before you went to intensive care.
Did anybody?
Yeah. Lots of people came, your nannies and grandas and
I'm sure the hospital
aunties
was
and
loving
uncles.
that.
And, well, under the circumstances, they were absolutely fine. They were great. And they all came to see you just because of the shock, I suppose. And then they all came the next morning again to see you before you went for your surgery.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were all allowed to see it. I thought sort of
Yeah,
once I
so
think you're in
no,
operation,
yeah.
you're put into like safe.
No, in intensive care they let you come because of exceptional circumstances. I don't think normally you would be allowed that, but because of the circumstances that happened and so quickly and so tiny and so new.
Yeah.
Just a matter of
I was just
lots
in
and
for a
lots
couple
of
of days.
yeah, you were. I think it was about 5 or 6 days.
Oh, really?
I think we were home.
Wasn't even that long.
We're home the next week, maybe the next weekend.
So I was
We
actually
got
in
home.
longer for my third operation. So I was in there for like 2 weeks.
Your third operation took a lot more out of you, but because
Really?
it was probably the biggest of the 3
Well, that sort of
operations.
finishes everything off, doesn't
Yeah,
it? The
and you're
full time.
bigger and you had to learn to go on warfarin and stuff, so we had to stay in a few more days to get weaned onto that.
So I had to not learn how to walk again, but
Mhm.
how to walk not like an old granny.
Lots and lots of physio and stuff to do then yourself, whereas when you were small, they came and done your lung physio themselves.
Mhm.
Just by manipulation rather than you actually physically having to
What do you mean? Like, did they like?
just press it on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to clear your
Right.
any fluid that regathering in your lungs. It's not good for you.
Nice.
I'm glad you don't remember everything now.
Maybe I don't know. You probably remember too much.
I remember everything as if it was yesterday. Like, it's hard to believe it was
18 years ago.
I can remember conversations. I can remember things nurses said to me. I can remember how things happened in what order, what Dr. Craig said, the questions I asked him, how I put him on the spot, asking, were you going to be okay? No one fine rightly, but I couldn't. I remember it as if it was yesterday.
But see, then all the
Very
nurses,
vividly.
all the nurses and stuff remember me.
Well, everybody remembers you because, as I say, we first onto the ward and took over the ward, and we took somebody else's operation slot that day. There was somebody else on the ward prepped to be operated on the 31st, and unfortunately we took their slot because we were a bit of an emergency, but
yeah, so like
luckily they got theirs the week or two after that, so it wasn't too long a wait.
Did you ever meet them?
Oh yes, we met.
Really sorry.
They were there the night we came in, so they fully understood.
They'd probably been in that position a few weeks before.
Yes, I would say. Well, he was an older teenager.
Oh, okay.
So his was planned surgery.
Yeah.
So he wasn't in a critical position, but he obviously needed it.
Well, yeah, obviously, like I needed my P11, but
yeah. But so you're always very understanding, and you always go in for your operations knowing that until you're wheeled away, things can change, because we were once those people that changed everything for somebody else.
But see, like you remember all the nurses remember me, and then I feel bad because then whenever I go in, but especially when I was still in the children's, when you're getting like the ECG and stuff done, they're like, "Oh, I remember you when you were a wee baby," and I'm like, I have no clue who you are.
Yeah, even the nurses from intensive care from the first night came and visited us after our operation, after back into our clinic. Cause
I don't remember that many people. Like
you made quite an impact on lots of people that night.
Is that a good thing?
Well, it was obviously everything was good in the end.
Well, yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
So just going back through the videos and realised that we actually never specified what the heart condition was that my mum and dad were told that night. But yeah, basically what it is pulmonary atresia, so basically it just means that the right half of my heart didn't develop fully. So that's the main issue. So yeah, there's that in case you're wondering. Show my little bandage. No, what are they called? Name tags. I can't think. But yeah, like look how toothy they are. They don't even go around like the front half of my wrist anymore, and I still have really small wrists. So I mean, I must have been really small. And then we think this one is for my is for Elmo. Right, because obviously when you're like a kid and stuff, they let you bring your teddies into the operation with you, so they get wee tags and stuff. So I took him, and then I had the wee dog with me. I brought him in too.
But Elmo came everywhere.
Elmo, he still goes everywhere with me, Mum.
Yeah.
I'm 18, he came and took a bed with me. I probably shouldn't be like telling the world that, but I mean everyone already knows.
But Elmo's got a friend that's called Zoe, so it was meant to be.
You see? Okay, so that is the story, roughly. Enough detail. Yeah, that's everything you want to add. That's anything I can think of. So yeah, that's the end of this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, share, follow my Instagram. It's in the description below. If you have any more questions, you can message me or leave it in the comments, whatever. But yeah, that's us.
Okay.
Gonna say bye now. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.